Subscribe to Man Told for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. The day I came home alive was also the day my marriage died. I stepped into a dark house, suitcase still covered in dust, heart still racing from the long flight. I thought I'd hear Lily and Ben running out to hug me. I thought Emily would be in the kitchen, smiling, like she always did. But what waited for me was a yellow envelope, placed right in the center of the dining table, like someone wanted to make sure I saw it first. Joshua. The name was scribbled in shaky ink, smudged, as if written with trembling hands. I tore it open. Inside, divorce papers, already signed, and one short line, "I'm sorry I couldn't wait for you anymore." I froze. The wedding ring I'd carried through 3 deployments, always in my chest pocket, always reminding me Emily was still with me. Now it just sat in my coat, cold, empty, nothing but a piece of metal. I looked around. The closet, empty. Her dresser drawers, empty. The wedding photo, still on the wall. But my face had been cut out. I had seen abandoned houses in Iraq, but never had I felt erased the way I did in that moment. I kept asking myself, how long had she been gone? And why choose that exact day to leave? What I didn't know was that the envelope wasn't the only thing Emily left behind. Inside this house, there was something else. Something that would make me look back on 14 years of marriage and realize I never truly knew the woman I loved. My name is Joshua Scott, 38 years old, former Marine. Half my life belonged to the Corps. The last 14 years belonged to Emily. We met on a sweltering June afternoon at a little gas station off the highway. I was in uniform, digging for loose change to buy a bottle of water. She stood behind the counter, faded blue t-shirt, hair tied up. And when she saw me come up short by a few cents, she smiled. That smile followed me all through the march that day. 3 months later, I proposed. We married fast, before my first deployment. Everyone said it was reckless, but we believed if the love was strong enough, distance wouldn't matter. The early years were simple, warm. Sundays, I made pancakes. Emily brewed the coffee. The smell of coffee mixing with butter on the skillet, that was the sound of peace. Every time I left, she'd slip a family photo into my pack, with a note, "Don't forget to come home to us." She hated thunderstorms, so I'd pull her close, lay my hand over her cold fingers, and whisper, "It's just the sky, nothing more." We had 2 kids, Lily, 9, always full of questions, and Ben, 7, mischievous, with a smile just like mine. Emily was a mother, both firm and gentle. She could lull them to sleep with fairy tales I sent in emails from half a world away. But the military doesn't make room for marriage. I missed Lily's first steps. I missed Ben's first birthday. I missed hundreds of dinners, just to hear Emily's voice crackling through a bad radio line. When I came home, I tried to make it up. Trips to the beach, fixing the porch roof, taking Emily back to the restaurant she loved when we first married. But slowly, she talked less. Late at night, when I called, she'd just say, "I'm tired. Tomorrow." Her smile was still there, but the light in her eyes was fading. One night, I video called from base. Emily was holding Ben, but her eyes weren't on me. They drifted, somewhere outside the frame. That look was colder than any desert night I'd ever stood through. I told myself it was just exhaustion. Work, kids, life. I said just hold on a little longer. But now I hear it back. It sounded less like a husband, and more like an order from a Marine. I thought money and promises were enough. I never asked what Emily really needed from me. And while I was telling myself to hold on at the front lines, she was also holding on at home, but not to wait for me. On my 3rd deployment, I left one crisp autumn morning. Emily held me longer than usual. Her hands were cold, but they clung to mine. The smell of her mint shampoo stayed on my collar, even as I climbed into the truck. I thought, she'll be fine. I was wrong. Life at war was routine. Patrols, reports, a few broken hours of sleep. Every day, I tried to call. At first, she told me little stories. Lily learned a new song. Ben spilled milk across the table. But slowly, the calls grew shorter. "I'm fine. Busy. Tomorrow." Each word felt like a door closing between us. I wrote more emails, even about nonsense. The stray cat that hung around camp. The rare night we got canned apple pie. Her replies were fewer. Sometimes just miss you, with a period at the end. That single dot felt heavier than any rifle I ever carried. One night, I video called again. The living room light flickered behind her. She held Ben in her arms. Her eyes were swollen. She tried to smile, but it died the second she looked at me. I asked, "Are you okay?" She said, "Just a long night shift." Her hand stirred something off screen. The sound of a spoon clinking against glass filled the silence between us. I used to think bringing home a paycheck and staying alive was enough. But maybe what Emily needed was never in my paycheck at all. A month before I returned, she sent me a voice recording of the kids singing happy birthday. In Ben's voice, I heard another man, deeper, older. Emily said, "Just a coworker dropping something off." I believed her. Or maybe I wanted to believe. As a Marine, you learn to ignore the details. That's how you survive. But marriage isn't a battlefield. Ignore too much, and one day you won't recognize where you're standing. At the base, in those final days, I counted down every hour. I pictured opening the door, hearing Lily shout "Daddy," feeling Emily lean against me, the way she always did when I came home. But reality was waiting in another form. A dark house, a yellow envelope on the table, empty closets, a wedding photo on the wall, with my face cut out. And the most important thing Emily left wasn't inside the divorce papers. It was inside a small notebook, one she never let me touch. I walked into the living room, didn't even have time to breathe, before I saw our wedding photo hanging crooked on the wall. The picture had been cut clean. Only Emily remained, in her white dress. My face was gone. I had never seen a battlefield so quiet. Lily's room still had rainbow stickers on the dresser, but her desk was bare, except for a single sheet of paper, written in purple marker, "Daddy, please come home." When I touched it, it felt like I was touching her small hand. Ben's room was chaos. Crayons, toys everywhere. On the wall, a drawing of Dad in green armor, taped on crooked. The whole house felt like a play abandoned mid-scene. Props left behind. Actors gone. In the kitchen, the calendar was filled with notes. PTA meeting, 6 p.m. Lily's dentist, 3 p.m. And in smaller writing, Dr. Hale, 3 p.m. I had never heard Emily say that name. Pinned to the corner was a grocery list. Milk, eggs, and one word that stopped me cold. Melatonin. I opened the trash bin. Among food wrappers were stacks of receipts. Birch and Bean Cafe. Morning. Evening. Day after day. I remembered the photo a friend once sent me. Emily sitting in that cafe. A man's hand resting lightly on her wrist. I powered on the laptop. Logged into the bank. The balance had dropped fast. ATM withdrawals. A deposit for Ridgeview apps. And a recurring payment. Sunrise Counseling. Emily never told me she went to therapy. For a moment, I felt relief. At least she was trying to help herself. But I also felt shut out, as if she had built a whole life I didn't belong to. Back in the bedroom, I found it. A brown leather journal, edges frayed, held shut with an elastic band. The one Emily always clutched on the balcony. I pulled the band loose. A page slipped out. Today, I didn't collapse in the parking lot. No date, no explanation. What parking lot? And on other days, did she collapse? The pages were filled with fragments. Sleep, 3 hours. Night, double shift. Talk to H. Better. H. Who was that? Haley. Or someone else. Then the iPad buzzed. A message lit up the screen. You still at the cafe? From Ethan, I see you. I opened the thread. Ethan. Shift done yet? Emily. Yeah. I'm tired. Ethan. I'm at Birch and Bean. Want to come? Emily. Just 10 minutes? Ethan. Okay. No work talk. Just listening. Just listening. Those 2 words hit like lead. How many times had Emily said to me, "I'm tired," and all I gave back was, "Hold on a little longer." Then I'd hang up. My phone buzzed again. New message from Emily. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Birch and Bean. I'll be there. 15 minutes. Just 15. 15 minutes. Maybe enough to save what was left. Or bury it forever. The cafe door opened, and I knew it was her before I looked up. Gray coat. Hair tied high. But something was different. Under the yellow light, her eyes looked deeper, like they had walked through too many sleepless nights. Around her neck, the wine-colored scarf I'd given her after my first deployment. She stopped at the table. 15 minutes, she said. Short. Flat. I nodded. I know. Just to listen. Emily sat down, slipped off her gloves, turned the silver spoon in her latte. I'm tired, Josh. I've been tired for a long time. I opened my mouth, but she cut me off. Not tired from no sleep, tired from standing up every time I fell. There were nights after work I'd just sit in the car, hands on the wheel, not even knowing where I meant to drive. Some nights I cried. Some nights I just sat there. I knew you were far away. But Josh, you were far away here too. She placed her hand on her chest. An apology rose in my throat, but it caught. I thought sending money and coming home alive was enough. I was wrong. Emily breathed deep. Ethan isn't the reason. He was just there when I couldn't lift myself up. He listened. Didn't try to fix me. Didn't say push through. Oh, he just listened. That's what I needed. And I didn't know how to ask you for it. I remembered the text from last night. Just listen. It no longer felt like betrayal. It felt like a mirror, showing me what I had never done. Dr. Haley, I asked. My therapist, she said. Ethan took me to the first session, not to replace you, to keep me standing. Silence settled. The whir of the coffee grinder, the spoon tapping against porcelain. Emily lowered her eyes, then whispered, there were nights I typed messages to you at 2 a.m., but I deleted them because I was afraid the only reply I'd get was hold on a little longer. It felt like someone had pulled all the air from my chest. I wish you'd sent them, she shrugged, her gaze drifting. I looked at the clock. I'm not asking you to come back, but if someday you need someone just to listen, call me first, no matter where I am. Her eyes softened. A faint smile flickered. Not the smile I remembered, but enough to tell me a door hadn't shut completely. I'll remember that, she said. She stood, wrapped the scarf back around her neck. I wanted to ask why she still kept it, but I swallowed the question. The bell over the cafe door rang as she stepped out. Through the window, I watched her fade into the crowd. I paid the bill, stepped outside. Cold wind hit my face. My hand reached into my pocket and found the leather journal. I didn't walk home. I walked the other way. On my phone, I searched a name, Hale. If I wanted to understand, I had to hear from everyone who stood beside Emily. When I couldn't, I pressed call. The line rang. A woman's voice answered. Calm. Professional. Sunrise Counseling. This is Dr. Haley. I took a deep breath. This is Joshua Scott, Emily's husband. I stayed awake all night. The glow of my phone lit the ceiling. The clock read 5:12 a.m. I couldn't take it anymore. I dialed the number Emily had left me. Dr. Haley. Her voice came through, low, steady, warm. I can't share details about a patient without consent. I leaned back against the wall, closed my eyes. I understand. I just need to know how not to keep hurting her. Silence. Then she said, Joshua, the best thing you can do right now isn't to look for answers. It's to learn how to be present. And being present doesn't just mean being near. It means being in her mind. I swallowed hard. If you want to start by asking why she did it, instead of only seeing what she did. The call ended, but her words echoed in my head like a siren. That afternoon, I opened the brown leather journal again. This time, I read slower. Short lines, scattered thoughts. Band fever? Lily can't sleep. Night, double shift. No one answered at 1:47 a.m. Then one page stopped me cold. Cold wind at the pier. Not like 2011. The year I proposed. We stood at that same pier. She had gone back there. But with who? And why? The last page carried a stain. Rain or tears. I couldn't tell. That evening, a text came from an unknown number. Emily asked me to send you this address. It was a gas station outside town. I drove out. Ethan was leaning against the pump. Heavy coat. Cap pulled low. He spoke first. I'm not here to justify myself, but I never crossed the line. I stayed silent. She didn't need a replacement for you. She just needed someone to listen. Right when she was about to break. And I happened to be there. I gave a small nod. Thank you for being there when I couldn't. He looked at me, surprised. If you want to help her now, don't corner her. Just stand where she can see you, so she knows you'll still be there, even if she doesn't come back yet. His words cut like a blade, but also landed like medicine. Back home, I rehung the empty frame, placed Lily's note, Daddy, Please come home inside. And Ben's drawing too, not to pretend nothing happened, but to remind myself, this is still home. I was heading to the kitchen when the doorbell rang. Emily. No warning. She carried a bag of the kids' clothes. They want to stay the weekend, she said flatly. I opened the door wide. I'll make pancakes Sunday. She stepped in. As she passed the frame, her hand brushed the edge. Her eyes flicked to mine. Quick. Unreadable? Then her phone buzzed. She pulled it out. Her face changed. Lips pressed tight. I couldn't see the name. She locked the screen, shoved it back into her pocket. My chest tightened. The room felt heavy, like one wrong word could shatter everything. I didn't ask, but I knew. The hardest part hadn't even begun. The glow from her phone had lit her face for a second. I caught the slight twitch in her eye. Before she turned it off, her fingers shook, like she was afraid of being caught holding something forbidden. Who was that? I asked, steady as I could. Work. Her voice flat, her eyes already turning away. Before I could say more, Lily and Ben came running. Their laughter filled the house. I bent down, wrapped them both in my arms, but the doubt smoldered under my chest, like embers beneath ash. When I looked up, Emily was gone, already in the kitchen. That night, the kids slept, but I couldn't. From the living room, I heard faint taps. I peeked through the kitchen door. Emily, hunched over her phone, her face lit by blue light, fingers moving fast, stopping, deleting, typing again. I stepped in, letting my footsteps sound on purpose. She looked up quick, locked the screen. I need to go to the pier tomorrow. I froze. The pier. The same place I saw in her journal. With who? It doesn't matter. I just need to go. Her voice sank low, closing the door on any more questions. The next morning, fog, cold sea wind. I dropped the kids at a friend's house, then drove to the pier. I parked far enough to watch. Emily arrived right on time. Long coat, wine-colored scarf. Beside her, a thin man with silver hair, walking slow but steady. I knew him instantly. Her father, the man who once shouted in my face, "You're not good enough for my daughter," at our wedding, then vanished from her life for 7 years. My pulse pounded. Why now? And why meet here? In silence. Without a word to me, they stood side by side, both staring out at the water. I saw her nodding, her lips moving, accepting something. He put his hand on her shoulder, a gesture I had never seen from him. Then he turned, walked away. Emily stayed, alone, staring down at the waves. My mind pulled me back to 2011. Same pier, same wind, on my knee, asking her to marry me. Back then, her eyes filled with tears. Today, her back trembled against the cold. I wanted to run to her, but my legs refused. Maybe this was a battle she had to finish herself. Maybe being present sometimes means standing still, even when your heart wants to rush in. That evening, Emily came back. No mention of the pier. I didn't ask, but when she hung her scarf, her hand brushed the frame on the wall. Dinner was quiet. The kids talked about school. Emily smiled a few times. Small, but real. As I cleared the table, her phone buzzed on the chair. She grabbed it fast, placed it face down. Work message. I nodded. But inside, the string between us was pulled so tight, I knew one wrong note could snap it apart. The sound of tearing paper jolted me awake. I rushed to the living room. Emily sat in a chair. In front of her, a brown envelope, ripped open. The yellow light spilled across her face. Her eyes red, like she had been crying. "What is it?" I asked, my heart beating faster than it should. She pulled out an old photo. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, stood in front of a wooden cabin by the lake. Curly hair, bright smile. Her father's hand resting on her shoulder. "My dad wants to sell this house," Emily whispered. "The only place I ever felt safe." Before everything fell apart, I looked at the photo, then at the sorrow in her eyes. "He came to you to give me the key," she cut in softly. "Said I could keep it if I wanted." She rose, walked to the window, her reflection on the glass, her hair stirring in the draft that slipped through the curtain. "Josh, there's something I never told you." The real reason I turned to Ethan. My throat tightened. Each word from her lips pushed me deeper into a corner. That night, I drove to the pier, the wind slamming against me, my hands gripping the rail, and I thought, if I let go, it would all finally be quiet. Then Ethan called. He just said, Don't be there alone. And he came. I saw it in my mind. The dark pier, waves crashing against wooden posts, masts clinking in the wind. Her trembling hand on the frozen railing. It crushed my chest until I couldn't breathe. I didn't betray you, she said, voice breaking. I just couldn't find you when I needed you most. I turned away. Not from anger, but because guilt flooded me. Where was I in those moments? At war? At bars? At places I thought mattered, but never where I was needed most. Emily turned back, her eyes glistening under the light. If we keep going, we have to rebuild from the ground up. And this time, you can't disappear. She placed something cold in my hand. A key. The cabin by the lake. If you want to start over, meet me there this weekend. She brushed past me. The familiar scent lingered in the air. The bedroom door closed, and I stood there, frozen. The key weighed heavy in my palm, like past and future pressed into one. The clock showed nearly 11 p.m. Friday night? If I didn't leave now, morning would come, and her invitation would already be in the past. The key sat on the table, catching the light, like a countdown. I picked it up, held it tight. Half of me wanted to run. The other half, terrified of missing the only chance left. I shoved it in my pocket, threw a bag over my shoulder, and drove into the night. The road wound through dark pines. The air colder, heavier, the deeper I went. At the final turn, the cabin appeared in the moonlight. Weathered wood, porch covered in fallen leaves, windows glowing faintly with silver. I slid the key into the lock. The click was heavy, like opening a door to memory. Inside, Emily sat by the fireplace, wrapped in a thick sweater. A painting lay on the table beside her. The summer lake, the wooden bridge, and a little girl smiling bright. She looked up, not surprised. You came. I sat opposite her, the warmth of the fire reaching my skin. I don't know where to start. She shook her head. Start with what you never said. I searched her eyes and spoke the only truth I had. I'm sorry for leaving you alone too long. Her gaze dropped. Her hands tightened on the teacup. There were times I thought, if you'd been there, everything would be different. But I don't want to go back to what we had. If we continue, it has to be a new story. I nodded. Wind from the lake slipped through the cracks. The curtain stirred. Moonlight fell across the old painting. I saw it then. The painting showed this cabin, but the bridge was whole, not rotted like the one outside now. We can rebuild, I said softly. Like that bridge. Her eyes searched mine. Doubt. Hope. Both flickering. Rebuild means stay, she said. We stood at the window, looking out at the silver lake. No embrace, no touch, just close enough to hear each other breathe. And in that silence, I knew the distance between us would only close if I chose to be present, day after day. Then Emily's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. A name lit the screen, one I'd never seen before. She silenced it, set the phone face down, said nothing. My eyes drifted to the key on the table, then out toward the dark water. I understood. Our story wasn't over, but maybe the hardest part hadn't even begun. Emily set her phone down on the table, but she didn't let go right away. Her thumb traced the edge of the screen. Her eyes stayed low, avoiding mine. In that small pause, I knew something waited to be spoken, or buried forever. Who was that? I asked, straight. No circles. She froze, drew in a deep breath, then turned her back to me. The sound of running water filled the silence. Someone from the support group? I've been going to these past few weeks. I stepped closer. What kind of group? People who've lost and are trying to learn how to keep living. Her voice was soft, but each word hit me square in the chest. A part of me felt relief. At least it wasn't betrayal. But the rest of me hurt because she had to find strangers just to keep herself here. When it should have been me. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't believe you'd listen. You were busy, always busy. And when you were here, your mind was still somewhere else. I was afraid if I told you, you'd just see me as weak, or worse, a burden. Her last words cut slow, a dull blade across my pride. I had always thought I was the protector. Turns out, I was the reason she felt most alone. Was that person the reason you didn't jump at the pier? Emily turned back, her eyes glassy, but her voice steady. No, the reason was Lily and Ben, but that person reminded me that I was still worth staying for. Even if it didn't come from you. I sat down. Jealousy twisted with gratitude. Ugly. Raw. I can't change the past. But I want to learn how to stay. Not with promises, but with each day. Emily, give me a fair chance. She shook her head. This isn't a competition, Josh. Either you're here or you're not. There's no finish line. I looked into her eyes, 1,000 words fighting to come out. But only one mattered. If I didn't prove it now, there would be no next time. Outside, the lake wind rose. The glass rattled in its frame. Emily turned, added another log to the fire. Flames flared, casting her face in warm orange glow. Warm, but distant. I knew this fire could be a beginning, or the last light before it all went dark. She stood, picked up her phone, started toward the stairs. My heart pounded. If I let her walk away now, the conversation would die in silence, and maybe never come back. Wait. My voice made her stop. She turned, eyes guarded. What is it? I drew a breath. If that night at the pier, if it had been me who found you, not Ethan, not anyone else, would things be different? She stayed silent for a long time, looked down at her hands, fingers knotted tight, then sighed. Maybe, maybe not, but if you had been there, at least I wouldn't have stood alone, listening to the waves wash me off the earth. I shut my eyes, saw her standing at that rail, wind cutting her face, waves exploding below, and I realized I had never truly known how deep her despair had gone. It won't happen again, I said, my voice firmer than I expected. Emily gave a thin smile. You've said that before, Josh. Every time, you broke it. I stepped closer, one arm's length away. This time, I won't ask you to believe me. I'll let time prove it. She studied me, then gave the slightest nod. I don't need perfect. I just need you here. But if you disappear again, there'll be nothing left to say. Her warning was soft, but it landed like stone. I nodded. I knew. This was the final line. No second chances. We sat by the fire. Its light danced across the ceiling, but beneath it, I felt the cold weight of what lay ahead. Emily flipped her phone, checked the screen, then set it face down again. Tomorrow, the group meets in town. I want you to come. I hesitated. For what? To see what I've been walking into alone, and to know the person who texted me tonight will be there. Her last words tightened my chest. I didn't ask more. I only knew, tomorrow, I'd step into that room, and there, I wouldn't just face strangers. I'd face the man I'd been, the man who left her alone too long, and that would be the first test of my last chance. Morning. The lake was still covered in fog, so thick, even the wooden bridge on the far side looked like nothing more than a faint memory. I drove us into town. Emily sat beside me, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee, untouched, the smell of coffee mixed with pine. Between us, a silence, not quite distance, but not closeness either. The building was small, humble. A wooden sign over the porch read, Open Hearts Meeting. Inside, maybe 10 people sat in a circle. When the door opened, their eyes lifted, not curious, not welcoming, more like measuring. Each of my steps sounded louder than they should. Across from me sat Ethan, head lowered. I recognized him instantly. The air tightened. A cord pulled between the three of us. The group leader, an older woman with silver hair and a steady voice, invited each person to share. When it was Emily's turn, she lifted her head. I came here because I once thought I had nothing left to hold on to. And I stayed, because I realized I could still be heard. Her eyes passed over me, paused, then moved on. Today, I brought someone with me, someone who missed me too many times when I needed him most. But he came here, and I hope this will be one of the times he doesn't miss. The air grew heavy. Every eye turned toward me. I drew a breath. I'm Joshua. I once believed if I worked hard enough, brought home the paycheck, that was enough to protect my family. But I forgot. The person I loved didn't just need what I could bring back. She needed me. I stopped. The image of the pier filled my mind. Emily standing alone against the rail, wind tearing through her hair, waves pounding below. I swallowed hard. I wasn't there, not when she needed me most. And that's a failure I can't fix with apologies. So today, I'm not asking anyone to believe me. I'm just asking to learn how to stay. Emily didn't smile, didn't cry. She just looked at me, like testing if my words could stand the weight of time. When the meeting ended, people drifted out. Ethan walked up, held out his hand. "She's strong. If you truly want to stay, hold on to that." I nodded and realized my only rival wasn't Ethan. It was the old Joshua, the man who had vanished too many times. On the drive back, we passed the lake. Morning sun cut through the fog. The wooden bridge appeared more clearly. The board still broken. Still waiting. Emily spoke quietly. "Josh, today was just one step. But if you can take this one, you can take the next. And if one day you stop, that bridge will never be rebuilt." I looked at the bridge, then at her. Then where do we start? By staying? That night, back at the cabin, I set the key on the table. Firelight flickered across its scratches. This time, it wasn't an entry pass. It was a vow. Out there, the wooden bridge still waited. I knew I'd have to replace it board by board, day after day. And if I stayed patient, someday we'd walk across together. Not to leave the past behind, but to reach the other side, where we could finally stay. Sometimes staying doesn't need a promise. It just needs not leaving.